All right, it's time once again for a meeting of the Clyde Sukeforth chapter of SABRE. I am Bruce McClure, the chapter chair, and we always hold our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner Waterman chapter of SABRE in Vermont. Dr. Clayton Truder, chair. Now, before we get started, let's go to Joe Ross. Joe, what is your favorite entry in your Today in Baseball History email for today?
Thank you, Bruce. The today is a very interesting one because it's an omen of things that might be to come. Just a few years ago, in 2022, Rob Manfred, who was the commissioner at the time, canceled the first two series of the season because the owners and players, and I know this is going to be shocking to everybody, were unable to agree on a new collective bargaining agreement. And that was the first cancellation to a contract impasse since 1994, but certainly not the last.
So I think what Joe is trying to say here is that he feels as though we're going to have a lockout, strike, whatever it might be at the end of the season. Is that right, Joe?
One or the other, either one of the parties will be very unhappy, the other one will only be moderately unhappy.
But isn't that the mark of a good negotiation when both sides are unhappy?
If they're both moderately unhappy and they actually come to an agreement despite that, then your answer is yes.
Okay.
But when you get one side that wants to make millions and the other side who thinks they should be held down to merely hundreds of thousands, you got a problem. And that's the problem we're going to have, I think.
It's funny. I think Jeff Passan was saying that he is convinced there will not be a strike. There will not be a work stoppage at all. He's convinced. He said it several times in the hot mics. He's like, nope, it's not going to happen.
Might be nice, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Joe, tell us how to get the email.
Today in Baseball History is available to everybody. A SABRE price of $10. A non-SABRE price is $15.95. Send me an email at jneross@gmail.com, and I will walk you through the procedure.
There you go. We appreciate you, Joe. Thanks a lot.
Thank
I
you.
want to go to my friend Megan Hanna. Megan, how are you this evening?
I'm fine, thank you.
Megan's like, oh man, he saw me. I was here. Now I got to talk. Oh gosh. So you're starting to put together the next edition of our newsletter. Could you please go into a little bit about what we're looking for?
Sure. Let's see. Well, we're still looking for content for the spring issue. I would be open to reading content for spring, summer, or fall at this point. Yeah, we're still looking for research articles, personal essays, memoirs, poetry, photography, really anything. We would be open to reading anything. And of course, we would love to see a Northern New England connection. But again, anything baseball related, we will consider.
Megan, how can they submit articles to you? What is your email address?
It's mfullerhanna@comcast.net.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you had a game story published last week?
I did, in fact, yes.
Tell us about that.
It was the long-awaited, I guess, second half of the doubleheader that I wrote about. I think the first one came out in like October or November, so it's been a little while. The 1909 Ladies' Day doubleheader at the Huntington Avenue grounds that broke all records up to that point with 29,781 fans, paid fans in attendance.
And it also you also had a little assist for retro sheet in straightening out a couple of things at I think Baseball Reference, right?
Yes. They had
Nice.
erroneously listed a different game as having the most attendance. Yeah, that was kind of a misunderstanding, I think. And it was originally inputted incorrectly, and now they've got it all straightened out. So in fact, the 1909 Ladies' Day doubleheader had the highest up until that point paid attendance.
Well, darn it, she figured it out. We've got researchers up here in Northern New England, and they're good. So there, good job, Megan. Thank you very much. Dixie's got his
Thank
hand
you.
up. Go,
I just want to know when the deadline is to submit for the very next one.
Megan.
That is an excellent question. I was actually thinking about this today when we should have it come out. Because originally I wanted the winter issue to come out in January and it came out the first week of February. I would say April 1st. Is that too soon?
You tell
April
me.
1st, April 15th, somewhere in there.
There you
Maybe
go.
I'll be the first one. The next
You're
one
the
to come out.
editor. You've got to tell us.
Yeah, I would say April 1st to 15th. How about that?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. There you have
With
it.
the goal
Thank you,
to get
Megan.
it
I
out
appreciate you.
on May 1st.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go on with our feature presentation. Digital maps with a strong narrative provide the viewer with multiple methods for exploring historical topics in detail. While the narrative connects the viewer with people and places, the digital map provides additional methods for presenting archival information connected to time and place. This project addresses the question, how did the Negro Leagues uniquely develop across the United States? Vanessa Viola is the Associate Director and Art and Architectural Librarian at the New York Institute of Technology, Old Westbury, New York. Vanessa was a digital printmaker with the Universal Limited Art Editions before earning a master's in library science from St. John's University and institutional technology with New York Tech. Her additional interests include collaborating with student organizations, mapping, and data curation. She is an NYC Open Data Ambassador, helping New Yorkers gain fundamental data literacy skills. SABRE member Fabio Montella is an associate professor of history and library sciences at Suffolk County Community College in Riverhead, New York. He is a graduate of Stony Brook University and a recipient of the 2021 New York State Outstanding Librarian Award and the 2024 Hugh Hastings Public History Award. His areas of historical research cover African American baseball and women's baseball and their respective connections to Long Island history. Fabio is currently researching a book on the Arthur Murray women's baseball team, which I'm going to ask him about later because that sounds kind of interesting, of the American Girls Baseball Conference. Vanessa, Fabio, unmute, please. Welcome to Northern New England. Can't thank you enough for doing this. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having us. I mean, we were looking forward to this for weeks, so it's glad it's finally here.
I appreciate for you doing this. Now, before you get started, I've got it on my mind. Arthur Murray women's baseball team. Is this research done or close to being done yet?
It's not close to being done, and you can thank my wonderful institution rather, for having budget cuts and cutting sabbaticals. So now I'm trying to find time on my own to finish this research in this book.
Okay.
Please don't tell them I said that because they don't want us ever saying that we have financial difficulties, but
I don't know nothing. But I'm telling you now, you get that done. I want to know about it because I'm going to have you back in again.
absolutely.
Go. You guys are on. I'm out of the way. Go get them.
All right. So, well, thank you everyone for having us here and for being here. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, share. Okay.
I just want to say quickly before we get started, Fabio, thanks so much for sharing and driving the presentation. I'm very fired up on this 20-something degree night, but if all of you have your phones handy, you'll be able to scan a QR code from our slides a little bit later so you can play with the map and take a look at it. So just wanted to give you a heads up.
Excellent. Thank you, Vanessa. So this presentation, what does the map say? Mapping the history of African American baseball. We're going to get started here. So what is GIS for those of you that don't know? And I'm going to have Vanessa really sort of summarize this for you because she's very much knowledgeable in the area, way more knowledgeable than I am. So Vanessa, please give us a definition or a description of what GIS is.
So GIS is a specialized relational database, right? So we know about so many statistics that are that you can manipulate and look at space and then add a layer of spatial and time characteristics on top. And that's how you can quickly go from a static map to a dynamic database. So a geographic information system where you can capture, store, analyze and visualize information in a variety of different ways. Think about all the different ways that we know maps. We know the roadways, we know the environmental aspects, then we can maybe put demographics on top. We can put housing patterns on top. So the GIS is the system that allows you to manipulate all these different layers and draw conclusions from it.
Thank you. So why this particular GIS project? Why did we decide to use this GIS technology and apply it to the Negro Leagues or Negro League stadiums, as we kind of refined it down to? Well, for me, it all started with the Seams Head database. When conducting my own research on African American baseball, I often refer to Seam Heads. Wonderful resource, very extensive data, a lot of Negro Leagues data in there as well. And to me, it is comprehensive, although it is ongoing, very dynamic, because, you know, for those of us that research the Negro Leagues, we know it's not as simple as most white baseball, if you will, because of the need for additional stats and information that's just buried sometimes. So again, it is very comprehensive to a degree, but it's still, again, we get more information coming in every day. And Seam Heads really breaks it down between the leagues, the teams, the seasons, the players, and the stadiums. And to me, it was the stadiums that kind of caught my eye, because as much as that information from Seam Heads was textual and it was data driven, I'm very much a visual learner. And I wanted to know, or ask myself, what would it look like beyond the text? What if we added visuals across the United States to really sort of depict how this all progressed? And that's where the project kind of started and where it took us. We wanted to depict this data that was just in there, in your face right there, with numbers and lines and graphs, and put a picture to it. This way we can get some sort of spatial analysis. Maybe we can understand, was there a flow, or was there other connections building to this growth of Negro Leagues teams and the stadiums that they were connected to. And it was also a way for us to preserve and share this history, because with this visualization and this creation of this map, this is now a resource that we can share with SABR. I can share with my students, who are now really starting to come into their own with their understanding of the Negro Leagues. And with the wider population, sometimes when you share information that is very textual and data driven, it tends to either turn them off or confuse them at times. So with this preservation and sharing, it was our contribution to this history that I think is really starting to blossom in certain parts of America. And also, it was a way for us to make use of these fire insurance maps, such as the Sanborn, and use these resources that have been, and I'm sure Vanessa can attest to this, buried in some way, and now they're coming to the forefront, and make use of that as a way to better understand Negro Leagues progression. So our scope, we say Negro League stadiums, but we know a lot of these teams played in stadiums and ball fields. Sometimes they played in parks that, you know, we call ball fields, but they were basically, you know, grass fields there. We focused on teams from the Big Seven Negro Leagues, because we really didn't want to jump into this having too much on our plate. So we said, let's keep it within the 7 major Negro Leagues, which in itself is still a very tall order. The criteria for making the list of being put on this map was very simple. If you played one season in one of the 7 major Negro Leagues, then we were going to pursue where you played, and we were going to depict that through this GIS map. But once you made that jump into the map, once you played just one season in one league, then we're not just going to look at your time in the Negro League. We're going to look at all the seasons of your existence, because we felt that once you met that criteria, we wanted to express all of the history of those teams and their connections to these ball fields and stadiums. Now, we took this approach because we thought it was a very manageable start. And even with this, it was a lot of data, a lot of teams, the Big Seven, a lot of information encompassed that. But it was manageable because we didn't want to go too far into games versus semi-professional teams or teams that existed before the birth of the Negro Leagues. We do want to get to that at some point, but this for us seemed a little more manageable at the start of this project, which has been going on for, how long have we been doing this now, Vanessa? Is it close to a year now?
Yeah, I think we really kind of started to meet regularly over the summer, to mid to late summer.
Yeah, so we're getting to that 1 year point. And this is just an example here of what we were looking at. So for example, the New York Lincoln Giants, this is just a screenshot from the data provided from Seam Heads. From 1911 through 1930, it shows every season, every year of their existence. And obviously next to that, we see the leagues: Independent, American Negro League, the Eastern Colored League. So they were in different leagues depending on the year. And if we go all the way to the right, we look at the ballparks: the Catholic Protectory Oval. We have the Polo Grounds. We have Yankee Stadium. There was one season where there was no ballpark. So the one year, 1928, they were in the Eastern Colored League. You meet the criteria one season, one of the major seven, so now you're on the map. But we said, even though you made that criteria, we weren't just going to cover those years in the major seven. We wanted to look at everything in their existence. Where did they move to? We wanted to look at their time at Olympic Field, their time in the Polo Grounds, their time at the Catholic Protectory Oval, and so forth, Yankee Stadium. Give them a full visualization, a full depiction of the New York Lincoln Giants and their movement around to different stadiums and ballparks. So obviously with all of this, there is tons of data that we're gathering, data from seam heads, from our own research, from other areas, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Fortunately, we weren't able to download anything from seam heads. And this isn't a knock to seam heads. They got their plate full over there. So we were really just kind of moving information over manually at one point. But they did correspond with us. They gave us a lot of help. They were very informative. So we really appreciate what they're doing over there. But we did have to add our own supplemental research to this. We did have missing data here and there. There was missing information that kept popping up. There were some discrepancies in terms of stadiums where they stood and where and so forth. So we really had to dig deep. And sometimes even one location took weeks and weeks for us. So it wasn't moving as quickly as we wanted to. And I have the Philadelphia Stars here because I just want to give you an example of that. This is another screenshot from the Seamheads database. We see the Stars from 33 to 48, Negro National League 2. It doesn't really tell us that from 49 to 52 they played in, I believe it was the Negro American League. Yeah. So those years afterwards, we still wanted to look at where they went after that. So from this data here, we have 44th and Parkside, Shebe Park, Passion Field. So all of this different movement from one area to another, one stadium to another. And again, these were stadiums that were considered their home field, right? They might necessarily have been their stadium, but this is where they played their home games. So now past 48, we have to start to dig into our own research and move past that. And one of them brought us to Wivchar Stadium. This ties into the research I do here on Long Island. In 1950, they came here to play one of our semi-professional teams, the Riverhead Falcons. And the the Philadelphia Stars were managed by Oscar Charleston, and they had Satchel Paige on the mound. Now, this wasn't part of the Negro Leagues, although they were playing a Negro League at the time. They were just barnstorming and playing a game here. But we felt that this is something that had to be on the map because of its significance. This was the game where Satchel Paige pitched against Carl Yastrzemski's father, and Carl Yastrzemski was the bat boy that game. And the significance of that is that Carl Yastrzemski watches Satchel Paige go 3 innings and shut down his father and the entire team. And then, of course, 1965, when Carl Yastrzemski Jr. faces Satchel, 15 years later, Satchel still shuts down the Boston Red Sox, but he does give up 1 hit, and this time the hit comes against Carl Yastrzemski Jr. So it was like a little, I don't want to say payback, but because Satchel was in his late 50s, if not older. But it was the game where Carl Yastrzemski gets that lone hit in his last game in the major leagues, and there's connection back to his father. My point being that outside of these parameters that we're finding in Seamhead's database, we said, well, there's other stadiums, other locations of significance, and we can't just ignore that. We have to make it a part of this map. So again, now we see this project growing bigger and bigger. So then, for those of you who are Beatle fans, and I hope there's some of you out there, help, I need somebody, help, not just anybody. So we had to look at oral histories, historic maps, and most importantly, we started to look at historians in the field to really help us with some of these mysteries, as I call them, because we just couldn't find any information. Gary Ashwill, Craig Brichter, Larry Lester, Jim Overmeyer, they're all still helping us right now, trying to find Homestead Park, which I believe the Seamheads database shows that the Homestead Grays played a home game there in 1921 and called Homestead Park their home field. So trying to find where exactly that stood and what is in that location today is still sort of an ongoing mystery. Matt Garvey, he helped us locate St. Louis Park, which was a big help. And I believe it wasn't it Brock Park at the time? I think it was Brock Park as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then Thomas Aiello, who gave us just a plethora of information on Canseto Park, give the parameters, and I even gave us, I think, a Google screenshot of that, a Google Earth screenshot. So again, we thank all these historians and everybody else who has been contributing to what for us has been just dead ends at time. So fire, oh, sorry, let me go back. Fire insurance maps. Vanessa, I'm going to have you take over here, please.
Yes, so we found that the fire insurance maps was a fantastic, really kind of treasure trove of historical information about the maps. And the more I've worked with Fabio on this research, I see the maps come up again and again. There are millions of sheets of fire insurance maps, and they, essentially, they're very ubiquitous with our with all of history. But what's happening is that more and more are coming into the public domain, so they're more accessible, but they also have so much regional history where you can see how a plot of or a area of land in a municipality has changed. It was documented every decade or so, the changes in that place, essentially for insurance purposes, right? What the building and stadiums were made out of, where they were located. So Wivchar Stadium and Maryland Park Baseball Park are two examples that we have interacted with directly in the course of this project. So Fabio, if you want to advance, we can kind of take a look at the next slides. So Wivchar Stadium, this is a location in Riverhead that we knew that the stadium was built near the location of the high school. And we were able to see this map is actually sheet 16 in drawn up in 1929. And then there were corrections in 1948. The stadium was built shortly after this, I believe in 1950. So it's actually not on this map, but we know that we needed verification of where the high school was, where the track was. So we had a strong indication of where the stadium was going to end up. Subsequent editions of this map, if it were published, may actually still, but no, it's okay. I just wanted to add that, this map could be in the Riverhead, a later publication could be in the Riverhead Historical Society, in the Riverhead Public Library. Not everyone has every map. Is what there's a lot of regional history here. Yes, I'm sorry, Jeff. Riverhead, New York. So next slide, please. Here's another great example. So this is from Maryland Baseball Park. This was from Baltimore, Maryland, published in 1950 and 1951. And this is at the Library of Congress. You can see in the taped over, stop me if I'm over explaining the Sanborn maps, but the maps are literally, they would bring them out into the field and they would paste over in white. Let me get my pointer here. They would paint over, I thought there was an annotation option. Oh, here, host tool, sorry. Oh, that's okay. Okay, so they would paste over with white paper and then redraw the map. So you can see those fine lines, and you can see I've highlighted and zoomed in on where the Maryland Baseball Park resided. And then you can see the faint outline of the grandstand, and it had since been demolished. And you can see in the next slide, we have an aerial photo that shows us yeah, you can see where the diamond had existed, you can see that grandstand. And so, and the orientation and how the streets have changed. And so it's been very interesting to kind of correlate these primary sources like this. Next slide, please. So from data to mapping. So as we started to kind of take on this ever more granular history that we've been able to pull from historical sources, the maps, the statistical data, various overlapping Wikipedia entries. As a clue to where we were going, we broke up the regions into the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, and the West. And the West really wasn't truly a region that we were covering. Fabio, did you want to add something?
Yeah, we still added the West there. We know obviously the Negro Leagues were more northeast and the Chicago area and that sort of Midwest over there. But we wanted to add the West because there was not a lot, but there were some barnstorming games that happened in that region there. So again, they were in the papers. They seemed to be very, very much popular for those occurrences where it did happen. And also we wanted to cover the West Coast Negro Baseball Association, which, tried to make a go at it, didn't last very long, but we felt, hey, why not put this in the map as well? It's connected to the story, it's connected to this narrative, and it really, through depiction now, we can see maybe what was it about the sphere of these teams and their travels that really sort of resonated with other aspects of the communities around them. So anything that we can add to this to really get a fuller understanding of this history, we're going to do it. And something as small as even just including the barnstorming out west and the West Coast Negro Baseball Association is going to add months and months probably to the research and the building of the map. But again, it's not going to be to our liking. It's not going to be comprehensive unless you include all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's a lot of push and pull here. And I was just thinking how, once you jump into the map and I show it to you, you'll see there's a lot of push and pull between the completeness of the data for different locations, how we visualize it, the images that are available, the way we display the images. It's still very much a work in progress, but that's primarily because we are really rebuilding a original data set. Based in the statistics initially.
And just to sort of build on point 3 here, tabulated information about the leagues, teams, years, and the play and the locations. As a historian, when we do research, we're taking notes. Some of us might have files and records and whatnot, but putting this information into Excel sheets and these other resources and tools that go into mapping, it's not that it's cumbersome, it's just very time consuming. So you feel like, I got the research, I know what happened, let's move forward. It's like, no, now you have to take weeks to start to really just build this data, because it's like you're building this virtual map, which is moving a lot slower sometimes than your actual research does.
Next slide, please. Right, so as we dig into the data and what we started to look at there, what we're trying to populate in our metadata includes the teams, right? So the teams, leagues, years played, all really came out of the seam heads data. Then we start to compile brief descriptions, primarily of the ballparks and the stadiums, the teams that trafficked through there and what those conditions were like, the region, so we can kind of ease our way into these different coverage of the different regions, any image attributions, because a lot of them come from newspapers, documentary photography, so much is in the public domain, but that attribution really kind of helps you understand, the background of and time and place in itself. The latitude and longitude of as close as we can to the actual stadium location. Any additional references, any articles written through Sabre, any Sanborn map citations, the street address, any wiki URLs that helped us compile this information, the year it closed and then the year it opened. And I didn't add it here to the list, but also the year anything was demolished, if it were demolished. And so this information starts in an Excel spreadsheet, then it moves into ArcGIS Online, and then we work on telling the story through an application that sits on top of that called ArcGIS Story Maps. Next slide, please. So map is built with ArcGIS Online. And so here's the first instance, just to give you an example. Map is kind of like the backbone of the program. And I have them open. I can switch to a screen share. We might as well go through the slides, and then I can show you around the maps a little bit as well. But you're more than welcome if you want to scan the QR code up here in the corner, and that brings you to the live map in the background. So you can see here I have layers of the map, and they are color coded by region. And then I also am working into color codes by league, and several teams, several stadiums had more than one league playing them at a time. So that's why you see in it right now, they're broken out into, some of them are actually labeled with 2 leagues. But really for this database to be true, there'll be 1 league at a time written. Next slide, please. So map narrative composed with story maps. So again, here is the actual story map that we use to tell the story of the map. And so for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to just scan the QR code from the screen, tap, and then you can actually go into the map here. It's very mobile friendly. This is what's wonderful about story maps. There are so many extensions of how you can work within story maps. It even has features that you can use to take in information. If, let's say, you were interviewing people, you were going to a history center or a local history center, you could record information. You can build in forms in a story map and then record information about your project. So next slide, please. So here we have the overview page. This gives you the breakdown of the leagues that you can see across the United States. That's the first phase. And then if you want to advance, next slide, please. So now that we're going through the regions, the map as a whole, it really kind of works like a website. There are sections of the map that you can look through. And then there is, the way it's designed right now, there are certain points of the text that are highlighted, and then you'll zoom to that local location in the map. There's also images for some of the fields that are within the record. And then there are you click on each stadium, and then it pops up, and then it gives you the history below it. Next slide, please. Oh, is that the same slide?
No, that was this is the other slide. This is probably just more of the information below it. Do you need this slide?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, you can skip ahead. Sorry, guys. So on deck. Love a good pun, right? So what would we like to do? We talked about, as I mentioned, an instant app. Basically use a version of our story map to glean additional history from local historical societies and regional libraries. When one of the historians was helping us with Casino Park, he was able to send us a copy of a map from the St. Louis Public Library, but it's actually only available, the digital collection is only available from within the library. So that's a perfect example of where it would be helpful if we were to visit on site or work one-on-one. We could send this collection tool to that historian, and they could help us by uploading one specific image or just recording specific data, or we were to take notes and working with them.
So
sorry, please go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, as we're looking at these locations, I'd say 1 out of every maybe 20 locations really required the assistance of historians or experts in that area, those local areas that maybe really dig deeper than we can. But as we start to expand this to semi-pro stadiums, women's baseball, the American Girls Baseball League, the American Girls Baseball Conference, what's occurring in Uganda with those women's leagues, which is just fantastic. We really want to try to expand this. And I think this is really where we need again, that crowdsource and information coming in. We keep reaching out to historians in those areas, but we're looking for a better method where maybe we can have a bigger conversation about this and collect more information, which we are doing, again, for these Negro Leagues, ballparks, and stadiums within our own borders here. But with semi-pro stadiums where local history is buried, when we're looking in Cuba and Mexico, where a lot of these Negro League teams played, even with the American girls and the baseball conference and the Professional Baseball League, Uganda, that's really going to take just a lot of outreach and a lot of effort for us to get in connection with these historians. So the crowdsourcing that we're trying to build is really going to be a time saver for us.
Well, Carlos, fantastic. That would be amazing. So gathering additional help, extended mapping and analysis tools. So the digital humanities and mapping is a whole specialty in itself. And Dr. Kelly O'Neill from the Imperia project, she is the researcher who has been instrumental in helping us work on a relational database, basically the next phase as we graduate from our infinite Excel spreadsheet to a proper relational bit database called NodeGoat. And NodeGoat can help us simultaneously look at both time and space very easily. And I thought her quote from the Imperia Project's research center, they said, we love this question. It prompts historians to work in new ways, produce new knowledge, and build new communities. We believe it is hard to understand history without a good map. So we have made it our job to make as many good maps as possible. And really, that's the adventure that we've been on.
And just to add to that, I was looking into digital humanities, which to me was a field that I hadn't really gotten my feet wet in yet. So I was taking these professional development courses, and on the screen I see Dr. O'Neill, Harvard University, who's working on this Imperia project. And what she was doing with digital maps is she was showing how the Russian Empire spread, and what factors led to it, and just the visual understanding of how this empire spread. And I don't really have much understanding of Russian history, but through that map, I really started to get a grasp of what was going on. And I said, man, this would be a great resource for the field that we're in, Negro Leagues baseball research, because so much of that data and the visualization, it's in our mind, but it's never really in front of us. So I reached out to her. I said, let me give it a shot. Maybe she'll give me some pointers. And she was so welcoming. She's like, I would love to work on this with you. And she's been there from day one with us. So with her and Vanessa, I think it was just a perfect pairing, because I do the research when it comes to technology. I'm not a Luddite, but I'm nowhere as advanced as they are. So it just became this perfect combination. And what I'm trying to get at is, even if you don't have the understanding of GIS map, there's a lot of GIS experts out there that would love to contribute or even provide some sort of training for us historians and produce something like this. So you don't have to go out and necessarily get a certificate or a degree in GIS mapping, because it's a very difficult, not to say very difficult, but it is a difficult technology to master. But there are masters out there that are willing to collaborate.
So in preparation for this project, I started to look at where some of the maps, the Sanborn maps, the fire insurance maps, were used in sports history, right? Not just the Negro Leagues baseball. And so this is an example from, I believe it's the part of University of California, where they had been working on redrawing Busch Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. And this is part of the Historic American Landscape Survey. And so these are measured drawings, and they had redrawn them and understood the site locations and how those parks changed over time. And then basically establish an official historic record about those stadiums. Next slide, please. So other cases where GIS has been used specifically in sports history includes this paper out of, I believe it's Venezuela, where they looked at the distances of across a baseball field, and they use LiDAR mapping to understand the dynamics of the baseball field. Discovering Forgotten Ballparks, documenting Black baseball through historic American landscape survey. That paper is an example with the diagram we just saw previously. Professor Montella, he uncovered Wibs Stadium using the Sanborn maps. The football and urban expansion in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And then 2 turns around the digital horse racing maps and process. So this is another example, I think, where they had done a fair amount of mapping to understand the expanse and dynamics of particular race courses. Next slide, please.
Which is our final slide. And I just want to say quickly that when we started this, Vanessa was never really as enamored with baseball history as I am. And I think she's got the itch for it now. We're going to go see a Yankee game at some point, and I think there's even talk of her getting a Yankee tattoo at some point. So all around success.
No, absolutely not. If you want to, if I could share my screen for a second. How are we on time?
You got plenty of time. I'm just concerned over the Yankees tattoo.
Yeah, no,
I'm terribly
no
concerned.
Tattoo librarian.
Okay.
I have enough freckles instead of tattoos.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you.
While Vanessa is getting that
please.
ready, if you have a question of either of our presenters tonight, go down to the bottom of the screen and hit the react button. You'll see another button marked raise hand. Raise your hand and we'll get you in line in Q&A in just a moment. Vanessa, it's back to you.
Great. Thank you, Bruce. So just to give you an idea, this is our very dry, basic spreadsheet that we're working through with our descriptions. I've actually been fortunate enough to have a few work study students here at the library working through this, and it's been excellent because, you know, they are digital natives. So the first hit is that must be the answer, right? So this has really drawn them into like longer form research. So they can really kind of understand what digging through and you know, looking at sources and making selections has been all about. So here, this is an example of this is the overview map. So you can see where I've worked through adding images, this descriptions and whatnot, and this is like the back end. Okay, all these things link out. And then finally, in building our story map, this really functions like a small website where we are able to edit the text, edit the overview, jump to each section. Oh, my mouse has a mind of its own. We started to link into some. I want to show you an example of some of the hypertext that's linked into different stadiums. And you can move around. And there's layers and layers of complexity that you can add to the map. You know, this is something that we're basically squeezing in.
And we're just now at the stage where we're adding the images of these stadiums, because right now you're just seeing text and the little blue icons there, but eventually that's going to be replaced with a pop-up of the stadium, so you get a better understanding of the visualization of it where it stood.
Exactly.
I might suggest that you get in touch with the Landmarks Committee. They have a mapping project that they're doing that is pretty, oh boy, you got to see this to believe it. If you want me to connect you with them, let me know in the next day or so, and I'll be happy to get you to the right people. They may be able to give you a hand with this too.
Absolutely. Anybody that can provide any assistance with this. I saw in the chat before, and I apologize, I missed the name.
Carlos Pastrana. Yeah.
Yes, anyone who would like to offer assistance or their knowledge in that area, because again, we're not knowledgeable of every area in the States. We're not knowledgeable of every stadium outside of it or any local stadium, which is really these local histories are sort of kept locally. Anybody that wants to share information that they think would benefit this project, by all means, yes.
If you want to be connected to Fabio or Vanessa, my email is bruce@brucemcclurenh.com. Send me an email directly, and I will be happy to put you in touch with Vanessa and Fabio. Do you mind if we take a question?
Of course.
Please.
I want to go to Ryan McClanahan and his fashionable shirt. He keeps trying to outdo me when it comes to clothing. We're going to fight, McClanahan. We're going to fight. Go. It's all yours, man. Are you unmuted? Uh-oh. I think Ryan is having mic problems again. Poor Ryan. I give him a hard time over, his shirts and whatnot. His mic goes out and he can't give it back to me. Can you put your question in the chat? All right, so he's going to type away here. We'll give him a second to get that done as we see what they are doing with this MAPS project. Can our members access this yet? Or is this not the end result of the project yet?
So it's ongoing, but it is published, so anyone can access it. I can so I was sharing via the QR code, but I can share the actual short link for the map, and I'll put that in the chat.
I'll have to have you send that to me directly, and when I put this on YouTube, I'll have that link there.
Okay.
For you.
Okay.
Ryan is typing away, I believe. I see he's got his reading glasses on, so we should be getting something from him in just a moment. Ryan wants to know if Homestead Field is lost.
As of right now, it seems that way, only because we can't get anyone who knows where that stood. So yeah, my simple answer would be it seems that way, but we're still hoping that someone has some better knowledge of it. I still haven't reached out to the Homestead area. I know the historical societies there might know. The more we do research on it, the little more cloudier it gets, because Homestead Park was sort of mentioned in several places. Was it just a field that popped up somewhere in the area? Was it a local park? Was it several parks?
Ryan seems to think he found. Sorry, I'm sorry, Fabio. I stepped all over you there. He seems to think he found it. He's going to send it to you. So
that'd be great.
Ryan is a great researcher with a lousy microphone. So every doggone week, this poor guy.
I just want to say that oftentimes we'll find a field. I just was reading right before we hopped on how League Park was given a different name to Redlands Field when the League Park was renovated, and then the fans did not like the attribution to the new name, so the following season they just went locally. They went back to calling it Redlands Field, and then it came up in the press that way, and then it feeds into the statistics that way, and so things like League Park are fields that League Park and then Homestead are fields that we think we found it, but then it contradicts with the dates and place noted in the statistics. So there's this push and pull.
When I was looking at Wivchar Stadium, there was a book, Baseball Stadiums of North America. I believe that was the title. Maybe I'm abbreviating it. But they had a little snippet about Wivchar Stadium in there, and it said that it was a location where the Lincoln Giants played. Now, through my research, Wivchar Stadium was built in 48, closed in 52. Lincoln Giants weren't playing during that period. So I said, what's the discrepancy here? I reached out to the author of the book, and he said, I just literally got rid of all my notes about 4 months ago, so I can't really tell you. All I know is that I spoke to the Historical Society. So we're digging, and we find out that Wivchar Stadium was named Wivchar Stadium for the first year of its existence, and then it became Riverhead Stadium after Riverhead, Long Island. Now, just next door, there was the Riverhead Fairgrounds, which had a baseball field where Babe Ruth played, Lou Gehrig, and of course, the Lincoln Giants. So now they're associating with Char Stadium with the Lincoln Giants. But after some digging and whatnot, we were able to iron out that history. But just through the back and forth and all of this research to get that one little point on the map, that was about 6 months worth of work. And had I known anybody who in the area who could provide information quicker for us, it would have cut that time in half. But we do it because you need the correct information. You don't want to just start throwing everything on a map, and God forbid you start getting people saying that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, and then what are we doing this for?
I always say that I envy the writers because I don't have that talent, but I envy folks like you who can do this stuff, because this is high level work that I could not dream of being able to do. I'm not a researcher or a computer tech or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination. So kudos to you guys for putting together such a high level data set and presentation. It's fantastic. I want to go to elite Sabre researcher Dixie Tarango, who's got a question for you. Dixie, you're up.
First of all, Ryan needs to spend more money on devices and not clothing.
Correct.
My observation and question is, this is such incredible amounts of tedious research to do this. I applaud you for that, if nothing else, and everything else. But my question is, in comparison to what you have now, what do you think is still out there for you to find? How much is it? How much is there out there?
Vanessa, mind if I take this one?
Please go right ahead. I have some 2 cents, but I'll give it later.
Yeah, I think it's just how much we want, how far we want to go. These Negro League teams, they barnstorm throughout the country in local cities, local towns. Do we want to map all of that? I would love to. Yeah, absolutely. But right now, we're just really mapping their home fields, their main stadiums. So if we take it the route where we start to look at the barnstorming, games versus semi-professional teams, games in Cuba, games in Mexico, and if we want to break it down with Negro Leagues players playing on these other teams outside of the Negro Leagues, then it's going to be a big project. For me personally, I want to take it as far as we can go. I want every bit of information on this map. The more we add on, I think the clearer the picture is going to be, because I don't want it to just be a picture where we're trying to fill it the rest in through our own imagination.
Stephen Meyerson is up. Steve, go.
Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, Bruce, credit to you. Even though you're not doing the different kinds of research yourself, you're bringing in different aspects of baseball every week. You're finding the best people in all different areas. My question is, I noticed there were some ties in the standings for these teams. Was that because there was a curfew, or the teams played a shorter number of innings and stopped the game at a certain point? What were the ties about?
The ties in the standings?
Yes.
That I'm not too familiar with, because I don't think the standings really played so much into the mapping of this. We were looking at stadiums, locations, leagues. But my guess would be maybe because of the shortened seasons. But again, I think it's just outside of our wheelhouse with this particular project. I apologize.
Stephen,
No
I just
problem.
want to say that your check's in the mail. All right, hey, you know what? This has been great. Let's do it again next week, March 9th, with Justin McKinney and his presentation, The Many Faces of Billy Gear. The sign-up link is available in the chapter meeting booklet and at the Sabre events calendar. And finally, if you're a baseball fan watching on YouTube and you like what you see, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to be alerted to each of our weekly uploads. And if you're not yet a member, you need to join the Society for American Baseball Research, the premier baseball community. Offering an amazing baseball buffet of options to explore your fandom, Sabre boasts more than 35 different research committees, over 80 regional chapters, and innumerable opportunities to connect with baseball minds across the world. For more information, go to sabre.org today. Fabio, did you have one more thing before we go?
Yeah, I just wanted to say Mark Hoyle, is that it?
That is Mark Hoyle. He was
That
here. Yes,
is
there he is.
one of the most impressive collections I've ever seen. Are you a collector of baseball memorabilia and things of that nature? I'm looking at that room and I'm thrown back. It's amazing.
That is the best baseball room in all of Sabre.
It really is. Thank you.
That's some awesome stuff. I got to get down there to see it in person. I haven't yet had that chance. Go ahead, Mark. You're on mute, my guy. You're on mute. There you go.
I said I missed most of the presentation tonight, but I just wanted to check in at the end and thank you and Molly for checking in on me last week when I was buried under 32 inches of snow.
Oh, gee whiz. I make it stop. I'm certainly hoping that we're done. We're turning that corner. I mean, pray for us up here. Pray for Mark with all his.
Oh, I'm fine now.
Man. Good. Fabio, Vanessa, I can't thank you enough for doing this. Vanessa, I'm going to be in touch with you probably tomorrow. If anybody wants to email these folks, get in touch with them to help with their project, get a hold of me, Bruce at brucemcclurenh.com. Let's get everybody out of here, and we'll see everybody next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.